Okay, so that's enough of all of that, man. Let's dive into this LSU season, and I'm just gonna run through the games really fast, and then I think it'd be great if you, Chicken, if you take over and start talking about their depth, and then we'll go game by game and give our final predictions of what we think. They open up. What a great game, great schedule. They open up with Clemson at Clemson. Well, it says at Clemson. Not sure if that's a neutral site or not. Potentially could be. And they're just labeled Clemson at home, but it just says at Clemson. And then they take on Louisiana Tech. And then this next game, they got Florida. It's going to be a good game. Now, thank God it's in Baton Rouge, so that's going to, the Napiers are going to take on the Fighting Bouchers, and then they play Southeast Louisiana School for the Vertically Challenged, and they should be okay on that game. Then they take on Ole Miss in Oxford. That's going to be a great game. And then I think they're going to face a team that's got a little bit of edge on them, that's going to come back and want some revenge from one of their losses last year, and they take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. Boy, that's going to be a game. Then they take on the Anchor Downs at Vandy, and then they play A&M at home. Then they roll to Tuscaloosa and play Alabama. Then they take on the Fighting Pittmans at home, then Western Kentucky, and then they close the season with Oklahoma. And look, man, I'm gonna tell you, that's a hard schedule. That's a good, tough schedule for them this year. I don't think that's light by any means. And look, there's not very many light schedules within the SEC anyway, unless you're Texas. I said it. So look, man, at this point, Chicken, I'm gonna let you kind of run through their depths, man, and let's see what their rooms look like.
LSU fan, you are in a good spot. Let's just go ahead and put it there. Now, if Nussmeier, and I have no reason to believe that he won't, if Nussmeier can stay healthy, it's going to be a fun year to pull for the Bayou Bengals. Garrett Nussmeier is going to be your starter at quarterback. Threw for over 4,000 yards last year, 29 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Michael Van Buren Jr. is his backup. That young man transferred in from Mississippi State. Remember, a guy that we were excited about for the prospect of what Mississippi State could be. He says, I'm out. I want to go where we might win some ball games. And so he transfers in to Baton Rouge. Running back position, pretty strong. The depth chart site that we look at has them rated as a B. I think that they're right up there with anybody else in the conference. Caden Durham ran for 752 yards last year and 6 touchdowns. That's really on average from what we saw at the running back position last year in this conference as far as production. You saw a lot of run by committee in the offensive schemes in the Southeastern Conference. I think that's genius not to rely on a feature back anymore because of the pounding that these guys take. You're going up against the best of the best during your conference schedule, Southeast Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that committee approach, I think is the right one. Caden Durham is going to lead that running attack for the Tigers. Going down into the wide receivers, there's not really a big drop-off. I mean, I'm looking at straight 4 stars coming into the school that LSU has until you get to the very bottom. Noah Nash is an unrecruited redshirt senior. Is he going to see the field? Probably not, but that's okay. Aaron Anderson, 5'8" slot guy, 874 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. Barrion Brown transfers in from the University of Kentucky, 361 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. Xavier Thomas played in 13 games last year, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns. So a lot of talent there, a lot of targets for Nussmeier to take a look at. The tight end room is what the tight end room tends to be at LSU. Nothing real flashy, but everything's real solid. What does that mean for your passing attack? You got a solid foundation to build on. Trey Green, 101 yards and 4 touchdowns at the tight end position last year. Bauer Sharp, 55 targets, 42 receptions, 324 yards, and 2 touchdowns last year. So not a big drop off there for the tight end position. The offensive line looks to be pretty solid. Looks like that Nuss is going to have some protection around him. Nothing big to report there. defense, and it's LSU. What do you think? Of course, they know how to play defense. The defensive line is strong with an A+ at depth. At depth. Okay, so your top guy rolls out. You got somebody better rolling in. Linebacker position, solid. A lot of incoming commitments there. Don't know how many of those guys will see time early because the top is, a little work. LSU did lose some guys in the offseason into the draft. Defensive backs, another A+ at depth. Tamarcus Cooley, AJ Halsey, Mansour Delane, all transferred in this past season. And then you've got 5 incoming freshmen. Again, will they see playing time? Will they not? I don't know. But 5-star DJ Pickett is going to make an argument to see some grass at some point in time this season. LSU looking strong. Are they strong enough to make a national championship run, a playoff run? Remains to be seen based on the schedule that they've got, but they will be a contender in the SEC this year based on this locker room.
Wow. Yeah, I wrote down something because you said Nuss, and I kind of like that, right? And so at first, the first thing that came to my mind was Nuss the bus. Is he going to be the guy that can carry, that has all his teammates on his shoulders, man, and carry them jokers through? Or is he going to end up being Nuss the bust at the end of the season? Because I think the expectations in Baton Rouge this year on Nussmeier is, you threw for 4,000 yards last year. You got your feet wet under this offense, under this program. We are expecting a Joe Burrow 2019 season out of this kid. And I mean, that's big shoes to fill. There's no doubt about it. But I think that's the expectation there. I think Kelly's the right person to lead them there, to lead this young man and this team there. It remains to be seen. But I think, I've said this several times in the offseason already, that LSU could be one of the most dangerous teams in the SEC. If they can put it all together, they've got the quarterback to sling the ball. He's already proven that. 4,000 yards last year. They got it. Can he put it all together? It's going to be interesting.
I think, just to build on that just a little bit, and I'll hurry through this. I know we're in a time crunch. Nuss is not only the guy that can do it, but I think their quarterback room can do it. Again, Michael Van Buren Jr. transferred in from Mississippi State, caught a lot of attention. So if Nuss goes down, I think that he can easily fill in. It's a different style of play, but I think that he can pull in there and still get some wins. Colin Hurley and J.J. Johnson behind them, those are both 4-star guys. Okay, so you're not dealing with a lack of talent in the quarterback room at LSU. You're dealing with some solid guys that know how to play football.
Oh, for sure. And if you remember, man, Van Buren got his first start last year against Georgia when they played Georgia, and they went toe-to-toe, man. I mean, against Georgia's defense. So you're right. I mean, I think Van Buren is a very good number 2 choice.
Yep.
Very good. And if all things shake out right, and he sits behind Nussmeier one more year, think about what LSU's future looks like next season. It's great.
It's the top quarterback room in the nation, I believe.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, nothing less than a 4-star sitting in that room.
Wow, that's impressive, man. So Kelly's doing a good job. Look, guys, let's jump into these teams, right? These games. So they open up at Clemson.
The Battle of the Valleys.
Yeah, that's right. The Battle of the Tigers. So who is it? What you got?
This one is a tough pick for me. It is, to our knowledge, it is in Clemson. It's a night game. Clemson loves to play a day game. Senior Chief gives us a hard time about this, the time slot that South Carolina likes to kick in as prime time Gamecock. Clemson loves a noon kick. This game's at 7:30 on ABC that night. This is going to be a knockdown drag out. I think, and again, we look at the SEC, right? So I don't have a microscope on Clemson. Based on what I'm seeing from LSU, I think that LSU is going to win this ballgame. Dabo continues to do the things that Dabo does to keep his team competitive. Even in the first few years here of NIL and transfer where he didn't want to play, he kept Clemson relative, right? Now he's playing in the portal. So how relative are they really going to be? I don't know. Does that amplify any? But I think this could be a moderately close game. I don't think it's going to come down to an end of game kick. I think that LSU is going to win this ball game in Clemson, but I've got something else to say about that later on.
I really don't know about this game. I really could go either way because, Clemson is returning a very good quarterback as well in Cade Klubnik. I mean, he had a great season at the end of the stretch, man. He really got his feet wet or should I say grounded within that program. And Dabo's a good coach. Clemson, South Carolina, hard environment to play in. If they were playing in Baton Rouge, in Death Valley, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I don't know. The home field advantage could be the difference maker in this game. I think it's a toss-up. It could go either way, but my gut tells me that Nussmeier might be too much for Clemson. B?
I think these are two of the best quarterbacks that are returning. I think they might be the top two best quarterbacks returning this year, so it's going to be an exciting matchup. But I think I'm going to go LSU by 10. I'm going to go LSU by 10.
Wow.
I like Clemson a lot, and I really like Cade, but I just think LSU got the SEC experience.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we'll all agree they'll beat LSU will beat Louisiana Tech. I think we'll all agree on that one. The next game is Florida. They take on the Fighting Flobies at home in Baton Rouge. It is a night game already. Go ahead, Chicken.
I got LSU on this one. If this game is played in Gainesville, maybe we've got a different story, at least enough to make it a close one. Again, I think that LSU handles this one the same way that they handle the Clemson game. I'm looking at a 14-10 kind of a spread. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it'll be close enough that Florida can hold their heads high, but I don't think that they come away with the win.
B, you think the same?
Yeah, I agree. Pretty much across the board.
So, this is week 3 playing, right? So if LSU, which I think LSU is going to win a game, let's go ahead and get that out of the way. And I think LSU will probably win this game pretty big, in my opinion. I think it's going to be 2 touchdowns potentially, maybe even larger. I just think that I think the environment is going to be too tough for Billy Napier and DJ Lagway. I think it's going to be too much for them. So the question is, if they lose this game, does the talks already start about Billy Napier?
Not this. They held on through midway last year with Napier and didn't let our conversations or any other podcast conversations influence what they're going to do. I don't think that 3 games in, at least Gainesville doesn't take that chatter seriously.
We'll see. It'll be interesting. We're going to skip the next game, the Southeastern Louisiana. Then they go to Oxford, Mississippi, and take on my guy, Lane Kiffin. And yeah, I don't know.
I will tell you.
Go ahead.
Just sit back and open up that big sponge that is your brain. Ole Miss loses this ball game. It is in Oxford. Okay, but to have the type of season that I'm projecting LSU to have, you have to win big games on the road. This is going to be a big game. I don't think they're going to blow Ole Miss out of the water, but I do think that they're going to win this game in Oxford. You have to look at a couple of key things. Jackson Dart is not under center anymore for the Ole Miss Rebels. Garrett Nussmeier is still under center for the LSU Tigers. They win this ball game. I think that they're going to win by about 7-10, somewhere around in there. And it's going to be a close score, but a comfortable win.
I like Ole Miss a lot. Obviously I like Kiffin, but I just don't know what this team's going to look like right now. I can't really comfortably say Ole Miss at all. I would probably go LSU probably by 6 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm really going to have to go with, as much as I love Lane Kiffin and respect him as an offensive guy, when we still have the unknown that we have, which is Ole Miss's, the Rebels offense, I think you have to give the nod to LSU on this one. I do. The next game, they take on your South Carolina Gamecocks. And I'm going to go first, and I'm going to let the Chicken go last on this one because you might have a few things to say. I think South Carolina wins this game. I think they're going to be on a revenge tour on this, and I think that South Carolina is going to handle business. B?
This is the closest game to me so far. I think Carolina is going to be better than Clemson this year. It's going to be tough. I like Carolina in this game, but we are playing in Louisiana, so I might take LSU by 3. Like that'd probably be the spread, something close.
If I had to put money on it, I would think if LSU has rolled through this schedule to the point that we've projected so far, LSU is going to be ranked higher than South Carolina going into this game October 11th. This game is in Baton Rouge. This game is currently to be determined. Wink, wink. It's going to be at 7:30, folks. It's going to be a night kick. Your friends there in Louisiana are not going to allow this to kick off at any other time. They want this at night in Death Valley to stack the environment against Shane Beamer, against Lenora Sellers, to remove any doubt. They want LSU. You talk about Carolina having this as a revenge game. LSU wants to come out and have this as a statement game. Like, it was not a fluke. It did not come down to the refs. It did not just fall into our laps by sheer luck last year in Columbia. Yes, it did. However, LSU wants to come out and say that was not the case. They want to make a point against the Gamecocks. Now, that's not how it will translate. I think, right there with my man B-Dog, I think this is going to be a close one. I think that South Carolina pulls the upset. I think that South Carolina wins this game by 3.
All right. Let's see if you still think that next week when we forecast South Carolina season.
You're right. I might be up to 7 or 14. I might be at 3 scores.
Yes, maybe. I think it's going to be an incredible ball game. I really do. Then the next game, they take on Vandy in Nashville. Yeah, I mean, I'll go first. I think LSU will handle business with Vandy. I do.
Light work.
I don't think that the anchor finds any purchase. I think that Hebert
Hebert
to be on a different channel. I don't see Vandy holding a candle in this game.
Yep, agreed. Keep it rolling. Not much to talk about.
No, not really. Then they take on A&M at home, and this could be a trap game for them, for LSU. And let me explain to you why. One, I think Texas A&M is going to have a good season. I think they're going to be a decent team this year, as they always are. They're always in the mix, right? But who they have to face after that, is LSU going to be looking too far in advance? Are they going to look over A&M and be looking at Alabama? Potentially. And if they do, A&M is going to bite them in the butt.
I don't see that happening. If I'm looking at this schedule correctly, you've got a bye week between A&M and Alabama for LSU. So they're going to have a week off in there. Texas A&M, you mentioned it. They're always good. They're always in contention.
Oh, yeah.
But they never climb that next rung on the ladder to be in contention. I think that Texas A&M is going to have a good year rolling into this game. I don't think they're going to be undefeated. I think with what we're looking at right now, LSU's got a chance to be an undefeated or a one-loss team coming into this matchup against the Aggies. But I don't see A&M really giving them much of a problem. Again, it's another home game. It's in Baton Rouge. It's Texas A&M, so it's a bigger name school in the conference. So no need to kick this off at any other time than 7:30. So pull out all the stops and bury A&M.
That's right.
Yeah, just like Ole Miss, I don't really know where to place A&M this year. I like their quarterback a lot, and I guess that's kind of where their upside lies at. But I'll go LSU for now. We'll see how the team develops.
And I know this is not the A&M show, but while we're on this game is, and I'll say this really fast, is this going to be the second-year slump for Elko as a head coach? You know, a lot of times that seems to happen where they ride their first season and he had a decent season last year. There's no doubt. Is this second year kind of like a Hugh Freeze? Does he have that little drop off a little bit before he gets them? I don't know. Maybe.
Could be.
Like I said a minute ago, their next season, they may want to think about their next season after this game. Their next game is they roll into Tuscaloosa and take on the Crimson Tide. In all honesty, I mean, we just recapped Alabama's season, so we know how loaded Alabama is. They've got to put it together. this should prove to be a very good matchup.
Alabama in this one. I mean, they got to go to Tuscaloosa. Like you said, there are a few games on this schedule that I have circled. Obviously, the South Carolina game is one. Alabama is another. This is a hinge point game for LSU. However, I just don't think that in Tuscaloosa, too much is in favor of the Tide, and I think that they pull it off against LSU.
B?
Give me the Tide. Give me the Tide.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with the Tide on that as well. Then they take on the Fighting Pittmans with Arkansas at home. They're back at home. I'm going to have to go with LSU on this one. As much as I want to have the Fighting Pittmans win this game, and I hope they do, I think LSU is still going to be too much for them.
Yeah, I think Sam Pittman is doing a great job there in Arkansas. I think he's building Arkansas to get to where we talk about A&M being. They're a good team. They're always in the conversation. I think Pittman could eventually get them to where they crest that hilltop, to where they take that next step on the ladder, which we have yet to see from Texas A&M. But they're not there yet. They're still scrapping. They're still fighting, but they can't scrap and fight hard enough to beat LSU this year.
B?
Agreed. Yeah, I don't think they got the firepower.
You know, the only difference in this that I might say, just a little caveat is, you know, you and I talked about their Arkansas's quarterback situation. Not a lot of people are talking about this young man. Was it Green?
Taylon Green, I think.
Yeah. I think he's going to be really solid this year, and you know, you never know. He could pull out some of these upsets. Do I think he's going to take Arkansas to a playoff probably this year? Probably not. But I do think Sam Pittman will eventually become a playoff coach at some point. Western Kentucky, we'll leave that one alone. Then their last game of the season, of the regular season, is versus Oklahoma, but they do have to go to Norman, Oklahoma. I still have LSU on that game, even in Norman.
I got LSU big in this game. I think that this game is the end of the Venables era in Norman. If you look back over your shoulder, it's never a good thing when the head coach takes over offensive play calling or defensive play calling. When they're doing something other than being a head coach and managing all of this, they're focused now on what kind of defense do I call when. That's never a good sign. Venables is a great defensive coordinator. He's a great defensive mind for sure, but he's supposed to be the head coach. And I think that this is the end of the Venables tour.
That could be.
I would agree. I think LSU takes care of it. I don't know if it's by a big amount, just simply because they're playing at one of the hardest places to play. But yeah, I got LSU.
I'm surprised you didn't make that your chicken scratch for the week, man, because that would have been a good one. Is that going to be the death of Venables after that Oklahoma and LSU game? But
well, we're not talking about Oklahoma, so I
understand that. But man, look, man. I mean, what an incredible. I mean, I think LSU's going to have a great season. I mean, as it stands right now, I have them 10-2. I think they dropped 2 games.
I don't disagree. Here is your chicken scratch moment, brought to you by Off the Chain Kennels, OTC Kennels on Facebook and Instagram. At what point could LSU's season be derailed? Game 1. We talked about the matchup with Clemson. We talked about the Battle of the Death Valleys. It's in the Clemson version. It's a 7:30 kick. It's a huge game. Cade Klubnik is coming out this season ready to play. Both of these quarterbacks came back this year because it wasn't that great of a draft class for quarterbacks this past season. This one's going to be huge. This is a battle of 2 guys that are going for first-round positioning. Correct me if I'm wrong, B-Dog. In this next year's upcoming draft, this is going to be a slugfest. If LSU loses this game, and I don't care by a lot or by a little, could this derail everything else in Baton Rouge? It makes the Florida game look like a question mark. It makes the Ole Miss game look like a question mark. It calls into question South Carolina, Alabama. That's right. I didn't mention you, Bert. Every other big SEC competitor is up in the air now. There are no sure things.
Yeah. I think that That was a great chicken scratch, man. I mean, it really is. I mean, could that be the game that trips them all up for sure? And we kind of mentioned that the other day when we talked about that Texas Ohio State game, the implications on that throughout the season. This may actually have greater implications against LSU than that Texas Ohio State game. I don't know, man. If they lose to Clemson, wow, does that deflate their entire season? Potentially. I would actually say yes. I think it definitely takes a nosedive after that.
I think that a loss for LSU in that matchup in game 1 is so much more devastating than a loss for Clemson in game 1. I think Clemson can come back from that opening loss and just take care of the rest of their season. They'll still lose in November to South Carolina, but that's a whole different show. But they could still have a good season, still potentially make it to the playoffs because of an ACC championship. I think that if LSU drops game 1, I think that pretty well makes your statement on 2025.
But why is that? I have the answer.
SEC football.
That is absolutely correct. I think it's easier to bounce back a loss from an ACC team that lost to an SEC team in week 1, and because you have to face the ACC. And I'll go ahead and say it. I think Clemson's going to own the ACC this year, even over Miami and the Fighting Becks. But I think it's easier to overcome a loss as an ACC team versus an SEC team, no doubt.
Yep.
B, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to argue against such a valid take. I think it could derail their season, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I think if they end up winning that Alabama game somehow, what if it doesn't? So if LSU loses to Clemson, like they could lose that game and dominate from there on. I don't know. It could go either way, but I think LSU's going to win the game anyways.
If they drop that game and then drop Florida, they're done.
Oh, it's done, and then you consider Kelly's future. I think it really.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier about does the chirping start in Gainesville if Florida loses to LSU, but if LSU drops to Clemson and then drops to Florida, going 1-2 going into Southeast Louisiana, right? Like, yeah, the talk will start in Baton Rouge without question.
Do you bring Coach O back?
Unfortunately, not that. Well, they'll never do it. I would love it, but they'll never do it.
Yeah,
I'm a big Coach O fan. I think he's great for the sport.
I do too.
But hey, apparently right now he's living his best life hanging out on a beach with a nice girlfriend, whatever. Like but he's not hurting. I don't think please let me back in. I don't think that's his problem right now.
No, I don't think so either. But look, I think LSU definitely has the potential to make a playoff run this year, without a doubt. They've got the team. I think they have the coach. I'm not going to say they have the schedule. I'll say Texas has the schedule to do that. I would not say that LSU has a very favorable schedule. It's tough. It's going to be hard. I'm going to quote Sark. I think there's no way they go undefeated. I don't think any team in the SEC goes undefeated this season. But it should be fun to watch. And look, guys, we're not that far away. It's rearing its ugly head, or beautiful, however you want to look at it.
Beautiful.
And it's so exciting. I'm so pumped.
Best time of year. Now the anticipation begins to build a little bit more every week.
Oh, my gosh. Look, man, and that chatter's gaining more and more steam. There's a lot more things happening. So, look, man, I think it's going to be a fantastic year.